Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about having a Scorpio Sun and a Taurus Ascendant in a natal chart. Now, the thing is, with the Scorpio Sun and Taurus Ascendant, what they have in common is that they're both fixed signs. They could both be very rigid, resolute, and intractable. This could be a very dominant, sometimes even domineering combination. You have the Scorpio, though, being a water sign, Taurus an earth sign. This person may come across a little bit more impassive and show a more placid cover than maybe the typical Scorpio Sun. Scorpio Sun can be deeply and intensely emotional. And another thing where I think there is a distinction between these signs is that simply that, okay, Scorpio Sun is not necessarily thriving on things that are crisis related, but they are not one to maybe run astray from it or have or really that they're a person that can is willing to be in a situation like that and not really and they don't have a fear necessarily of making waves. Taurus rising can be the antithesis of this in a way because Taurus rising is more about tranquility and peace and doesn't like to rock the boat and really will go out of their way to avoid crisis like situations if they can because they don't want to disturb their peaceful setting, so to speak. So really you have a Taurus ascendant can camouflage the Scorpio Sun strongly, and this person might come across as a lot more, I guess you could say, calmer and more and less maybe about action oriented than their typical Scorpio Sun, and maybe a little bit more like stagnant and more kind of a sedentary type nature. Now, when you look at the natal chart, the sun sign can represent our basic ones, while the rising sign or ascendant can represent the manner or method in which one attains these basic wants. So for Scorpio Sun, the basic wants can be connected with power, with having control, could be shared resources. I understand sex, it could be prominent in any zodiac sign's life, but it's a little bit more pronounced, I think, on average with Scorpio. So that is another thing as far as the basic wants go. And things connected with digging deep and solving mysteries, solving conundrums, and really whether it's for enjoyment or whether it's something they have to do in a real life situation where it's something that they feel compelled, where it's important to do so. Now, in having a Taurus ascendant, the method or manner in which these things may be done could be in a very methodical, steady, persistent type manner, a very consistent manner in this, and do it with a lot of Taurian, like I guess you could say, calmness at the same time, and very deliberate. And it's possible too that this person may pursue a Sun and Scorpio-like profession, such as astrology, the occult, supernatural, psychology, maybe something connected with law enforcement, forensics, and do so with a lot of that laborious Taurus rising energy, that hard work ethic, doing it in a very methodical but slow but steady manner. And it could be possible too that the basic wants that I described before, Scorpio, may be done through a Taurus-like profession, such as something where finance is prominent, understanding of money and value of things. Could be working as stockbroker or pawnbroker, something that may be even one of the arts, even music, drawing, sculpting, painting, and this could be in that sense. Yes, it could be done through a Taurus like profession. Even architecture could be another thing. Maybe something where generate just in a way. Also, the thing about this is it's interesting because Taurus is about making generating income and making money, and the Scorpio Sun can be more about shared resources because Scorpio is a sign that corresponds with the eighth house. Well, this could be a person that could actually maybe through Taurus rising they generate the income to satisfy the Scorpio basic wants, which could be connected with shared resources. Well, Probably thinking, well, how does one do that? Well, the thing is, if one makes a prodigious or good amount of money, they could attract that right. They might help attract that right significant others, or for example, and be able to have a situation where they can have the shared resources with that person. Well, anyway, a thing is, as far as this goes, now it's important to look at the aspect, if any, are made between the Sun in Scorpio and the Taurus Ascendant. And the two major aspects, unfortunately, that could be made are negative or adverse. You could have an opposition between the two, or you can have an out of sign inconjunct. Now, the opposition, for example, let's say somebody has a Scorpio Sun at 9 degrees and a Taurus Ascendant at 5 degrees. Well, that would form an opposition aspect, which is adverse and adversarial, and it could indicate a very strong conflict, because even if the person is not cognizant of his or her astrological placements, it could indicate that maybe this person has feelings of being feeling misconstrued or misunderstood, because what they're projecting outwardly, the outer demeanor, which is the ascendant, of course, may be strongly different and diametrically opposed to what is going on inside, which is, of course, the sun sign. And it could lead to feelings of exasperation and inner tension. Now, the same could happen if you have an out of sign inconjunct aspect. Let's say somebody has the Scorpio Sun at 1 degree and the Taurus Ascendant at 29 degrees. That would form an out of sign inconjunct aspect, and which is adverse and adversarial as well. And you could have those similar or same feelings what I described before as far as the opposition aspect would go. Now, it's important also to look at the house placement of the Sun in Scorpio, because even though the Taurus Ascendant or Taurus Rising may suppress or camouflage to some degree that Scorpio Sun energy, the Scorpio Sun energy may still come out at least somewhat prominently in that particular house that it resides in. Let's say that the Sun in Scorpio is in the 7th house. Well, this could indicate that emotional intensity and maybe maybe going through subterfuges and solving mystery may be somehow tied in, maybe come out in their partnerships and in their relationships. This could be somebody, if they're in a courtroom, they could really do a lot of, I guess you could say, deep research and try to find out any dirt on that person, for example, through that Scorpio ability to do this extensive research and to dig deep and to be able to maybe conquer the enemy in the courtroom, and being a formidable one perhaps at that. Now, let's say that the Sun in Scorpio is in the 6th house. Well, this emotional intensity of the Sun in Scorpio may come out strongly in matters pertaining to their work, to service, and to health as well. Now, let's say that the Sun in Scorpio falls in the 5th house. Well, the Scorpio energy can come out perhaps at least somewhat prominently in matters connected with love and with romance, and then their creative endeavors. There may be a lot of that Scorpio emotional intensity in these matters, and that resourcefulness may come out. It could be somebody that enjoys astrology as a hobby, for example. The Sun in Scorpio resides in the 5th house. Well, anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment for having the Sun in Scorpio and a Taurus Ascendant in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about having a Scorpio Sun and a Gemini Ascendant in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.